as you get older, things just get more difficult. It's just harder to gain muscle or lose weight or run faster or lift more, any of those things. It's just the way it is. It's just aging, right? Maybe not. We're going to take a look at that on today's episode of the Movement Podcast, the podcast for people who want to know the truth about what it takes to have a happy, healthy, strong body, usually starting feet first, because those things are your foundation. We're going to break down the mythology, the propaganda, sometimes the outright lies you've been told about what it takes to run or walk or hike or play or do yoga or CrossFit, whatever it is you enjoy doing, and to do that enjoyably, efficiently, effectively. Did I mention enjoyably? I know I did. Because if you're not having fun, please just do something different till you are. Life's way too short. And we call it the movement because we're creating a movement that's going to involve you. I'll tell you how in a second. Not a big deal. About movement, about natural movement, using your body naturally, the way it's made to move and to be enjoyed. And the movement part that's involving you is, this is a grassroots kind of thing. So if you haven't checked out previous episodes, if you're new to us, go to www.jointhemovementmovement.com. You'll find the previous episodes. You'll find all the places you can find the podcast, all the places to interact with us on YouTube and Facebook, etc. And then like and share and subscribe and give us a thumbs up and ring the bell on YouTube. You know how to do it. In short, if you want to be part of a tribe, please subscribe. All right, more about all that later, but let's jump in. Rodrigo, a pleasure to have you here. And why don't you tell people who the hell you are and what the hell you're doing here?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Steven. It's a pleasure for me to be here. So my name is Rodrigo. My last name is Gallego, originally from Argentina, from a town called Mar del Plata. I am a movement coach, a natural movement coach. Not very much like your typical gym person. I don't have a gym membership. I haven't been in a gym in forever. But I like to move, and I like natural movement, and it is my passion to help people move better, okay, and see movement maybe in a different way.
Well, before I ask you the question, different how, which will be the first question, just for the people who've been watching this podcast, yes, this is a weird background for me. My wife and I just moved into this new house. We're still renovating. This is one of the 2 rooms in the basement that we are the only 2 rooms we get to use right now. So FYI, and that's why the lighting is crap also. So my apologies, but that's the way it is. Anyway, okay, so move different. So say more about that, please.
Well, moving different is in a way that I feel like most people are just used to training hard, not thinking so much in what's happening with the body when they're doing that. It's about, maybe adding volume, adding intensity, pushing harder and lifting harder. But it's like, how are you really moving? So I like to go one step before that because I mostly work with people my age and up. I'm 46. So it's around 40 and 50. Our bodies are very resilient and they can deal with a lot of stuff through many years. But then it's a time that the body, starts talking to us. And if we don't pay attention, start talking louder and louder until it's, okay, dude, are you going to listen to me? And that's when things start breaking down and we have some injuries. And then what happens is we start to believe that it's just an age-related thing.
Right.
So I like to think that it's not like that. And I like at least to open the possibility. Okay. It's like, not just because I'm 40, you're 50, whatever you are, that doesn't mean that you cannot move well.
Yeah.
And continue enjoying life.
It's funny. So I'm a competitive sprinter. There's a fitness guy that I know who wrote a book about how to be fit over 50. And he says, here's the things you shouldn't do. And every one of the things he says you shouldn't do is what I do.
And that's completely fine. That's part of the thing. We need to do things that we enjoy, right?
Yeah.
But we need to understand that sometimes the things that we enjoy are also stressors, right? You're putting a stress.
Yep.
If you want to do those for long and do them well, right? Because if you want to sprint, you're going to go fast, right? Or as fast as you can.
I resent the implication that as fast as I can is not fast.
But it's really cool that I haven't met so many sprinters. And from what I know, I think you're 58 and you're sprinting. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And do you think you're going to be sprinting in 10 years from now?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You see, that's what I like. A lot of people will say, no, I'm going to be 65, 68,
yeah.
and sprinting? That doesn't make sense.
Some of the guys that I hang out with are 80, and they're obviously not as fast, but they're training hard, they're doing well, they run well, and they're wonderful to hang out with. I mean, I've never met a sprinter that I didn't like because we're all insane, because we're working really hard for something that has no real, value. We're not going to get prize money or anything like that, and we're just going to get slower over time after you get past, in your early to mid 60s. But we still do it anyway, and we're crazy competitive, knowing there's no value in this, which is sort of like being, having a secret handshake. It's like, oh, you're an idiot too? Welcome to the club. And,
but really, there is value, right? Because it makes you happy.
It's the most fun. I mean, part of it is, I'll tell you, it's like going to Las Vegas because it's intermittent reinforcement. You pull the handle, sometimes it works. You pull the handle, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay.
So like at the end of a race, when someone says, how'd you do? My answer is, do you want it with the excuse or just a number? The excuse if I could, because you can never perfectly, and that's very addicting.
No, but having those things are very important in life. Life has become so busy, so serious, so stressful in many ways that we need to find some activities or sometimes during the day that we enjoy. And what I see that happens many times is people have lost track of that. They feel like training is another chore, is something that you need to hate, but you have to do.
Well, I joke about that. I go, kids, we used to play, and now we work out.
Yes, I don't even like that word. Is pretty much not in my vocabulary because it has a really bad connotation, workout. I like playing, maybe training, maybe moving, but working out, because everybody has that idea. Oh, I work out. I don't feel like doing that. Because most of the time, that's what I would say differently. Most of the time is you need to go hard, you need to really sweat, and tomorrow you need to feel sore. And that's the sign. The result, oh, that was a good workout.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's so easy to do. I can do that without thinking and make you like sweat and be sore tomorrow. But is that really the best use of your time? First, are you enjoying that? If I'm screaming next to you and telling you, give me 10 more or do that, that's not enjoyable, right?
Yeah.
And then if we're again talking about people that has a history of life, we all carry with imbalances. We all carry with like weak areas, joints that don't move anymore. I'm going to ask you to go super fast and hard. That doesn't make much sense, at least in my eyes. There's different things for everybody, and there's so many ways to get things done, right? But how I see it, I like to first know that you don't need to suffer. It shouldn't be a suffering time. We need to make it in a way that you're looking forward doing it. I want to go because I like to call it like recess time. It's like you're sitting on the chair, you're stressing the computer, you're running around with so many things. We need to create a space that you can have a good time. So that would be the first prerequisite. Like, let's have a good time. Okay, then what do we do with that time? In my case, what I like to do is to help you figure out what are the things that are not working so well, that if we can improve a little bit, doesn't need to be a huge thing, but if we can start improving, I should start noticing how your body is moving or not, and we start working on that in a fun way, then the goal will be for you to keep sprinting even for longer. Because, we clear up the path, we clear up the movement, so you move a little more efficient. And that's what we're after, more efficiency in movement.
So conceptually, this all sounds great. And at some point, I want to come back to sort of how you got to this, but I don't want to do that quite yet, because I can feel my own desire about something I'm going to ask you about that I imagine other people listening or watching will have as well. Namely, can you give me an example of what you're talking about? So somebody comes in with something. What do they actually do with you? What are you doing technically, practically? Yeah. And also, if you can, how is it different than what most people are calling functional fitness?
Yeah, well, what I will do is I will see you moving, right? So let's start doing with some simple stuff.
Let's do this. Let's imagine I come in, it's a typical runner thing, and I say, hey, my knees are bothering me. So what happens next?
Well, we will start on the ground. We will start with simple. I bring everybody to the ground because I feel the ground is where everything is safe. There's not much balance around. We can relax on the ground. And I always recommend people spend more time on the ground because you're going to be moving in different ways. But we start from the ground, and then we will start doing simple movements. So first, maybe we will sit cross-legged. We will start moving the neck, moving the shoulder, getting some spine. One of the things that gets very stiff is the spine. For people our age, the spine doesn't move much. So then we need to start compensating there. Then we will get into some movement at the hips that let's do this, super simple. But I'm seeing, okay, you cannot move your hips. And then from there, then we will start doing some reaches. And then I see, okay, how is the foot connecting with the ankle? How is the ankle and the hip moving and the spine? And then their shoulders. And then it's like, okay, that gives me a nice picture of what's happening. Just from the 10, 15 minutes on the ground. And when you start seeing people, most of the time, there's a silver lining. There's the stuff because our lifestyle is pretty much similar, so we kind of do about the same. So you start, the typical thing, the hips don't really move. So there's not much activation of the posterior chain. Hamstrings and calves are super tight. So there's not much dorsiflexion of the ankles. Feet, I don't need to tell you about that, right? Feet are almost not part of our body. Like they don't even want to show their feet. And it's like, how crazy are we as humans that we decide which part we like and which part are kind of embarrassing. And then we go right? It's like so many times now, people that are trained with me is like, oh my God, take my shoes off, right? And all of them are wearing minimal shoes. But at the beginning, it's like, do I need to take my shoes off? Like, really? It's like almost like get naked, It's like, bro, just take your shoes off.
It's a joke. It's a joke that I've only said to certain people who know me well enough that they won't punch me when I say this. And I say something about taking off their shoes. They go, "Oh, I don't want people to see my feet." I go, "Trust me, that's not the worst thing they're going to see."
Yeah, it's funny because why? It's just something that started, and then we all continue. But it's like, what is the big problem with the feet?
I think there's something to it. I think that people know intuitively if they've been squeezing their foot into some shoe and it's not moving well. I think they know just, again, intuitively that something's wrong. It's not that they're embarrassed per se about what their feet look like. I think more often than not, if they're embarrassed by what their feet look like, it's because they know there's something not right. It's not just a great aesthetic thing, but there's just something. It's like, I could be wrong, but I have a sneaky...
No, but that makes sense because, the people are very worried about that. And I say, listen, imagine since you were 1 year old, they will be putting mittens on your hands.
Yeah.
Right? And on top of that, you were walking on your hands for 45 years. How will your hands work today? And it's like, oh no. Well, that's what we've been doing to our feet for all this time. And then those are your foundation. If you have weak feet, how do you expect the rest of the chain, ankle, knee, hip, spine, pelvis to work well? As soon as that chain, and it's the first chain, right? We start from the feet. Yeah. We're bipedal, we're walking, we're running, we're jumping. If the feet are not there or not doing the feet work because they can't, then somebody else needs to do that job.
Yeah.
And then an ankle is not a foot. A knee is not a foot. So that's when we start messing up. So that takes, start realizing that first and then say, okay, that makes sense. That, that sometimes that kind of a hard step, okay. And then I start exploring and I start feeling that. And then with time, the idea is, okay, now you're moving better. Now you are connecting more. And that's the feet. Then we start looking at the ankles and the knees and the hips and the spine, and then how those work together because we have become so disconnected too.
Yeah.
And sometimes we train, I'm going to train the biceps, I'm going to train my legs, but the body doesn't work like that. It works all together. I'm moving my arm and it's connected all the way back to my feet. So everything is connected. So doing more of that and understanding that and then becoming more connected, and when we become more connected, then we can be more efficient.
There's someone, I wish I could remember who it was, who has a great line when someone wants to break down their body in parts. It's like, now we do arm day, now we do leg day, now we do back day. Because, every day is heart day, right? So, it should be the same way with the rest of your body. Yeah. So, you've done some analysis. And again, I know when people hear that, they think, okay, that's great. But I'm not seeing you right now, so that doesn't help me. So can you give me an example or think about people who might be watching or listening? If we move past the evaluation phase into the movement phase, can you give people any sort of examples of something that you would do with them or anything that they could do if they're watching or listening now?
The thing that I love, and I can tell you so much, and people can do anywhere, is get on the ground, place your hands on the ground, knees and feet. And then from there,
So
that would be 6 points of support, right? I have 2 hands, 2 knees, 2 feet.
So I have to tell you, I'm going to clarify this for people, because as soon as you say get on the ground, put your hands on the ground, I was imagining sitting and putting my hands next to my butt. But you're talking about being basically on your knees and then hands.
I'm talking about the classic crawling position, right?
Yes.
So you will be in a crawling position, all 4, but it's really 6, right? So 2 hands, 2 knees, 2 feet.
Yep.
Now from that position, press into the hands, and you're going to tuck the toes under, right? So you're going to press hands and from the toes, and you're going to try to lift the knees off the ground. So we go from 6 points of support to 4 points of support. That, if you look at any kid, it would be like, okay, so what? Now what do I do with this? For you, no problem. For many people, but that gives you an idea. Okay, if that just lifting the knees off the ground, and you can try, it's like, okay, now I'm holding my body weight with these 4. Yeah. That's a great way to see where we are. Because if that position, that's how we learn how to walk, right? We were crawling first. So if that is hard, don't go and do snatches. Don't go and do, because there's a problem there. Your foundation is not there. So that will be the first one. Just feeling the position, study, like isometric, hold that position. Okay, that is easy. Okay, now take it for a walk, take it for a crawl. And that's where you start, like, people are like, what? Like, it's like, which leg do I move? Which arm? How? And that is like, okay, that's a great opportunity, because if that is hard for you, you have so much to gain, because everything that you're doing without having that connection. Mm-hmm. And that's how we learn. So on the ground, and we start crawling, of course, I try to minimize the instruction there, because I believe natural movement, you start realizing something doesn't feel right. And you maybe start making some adjustments. Some people take a long time to figure that out. And then I will say, okay, let me help you a little bit. But some other would be like, well, I haven't done this in a very long time. But as soon, if they play sports, if they move, if they have more body control, they figure out. But you can see a lot from that. And that is the one movement that I would say, if for some reason I need to quit everything, I can only choose one movement that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to probably do my crawling.
So, and to be clear for people, so you're crawling, but your knees are off the ground. So you're basically feet and hands. And so once that becomes simple for somebody, where does it evolve from there?
No, and also I want to give you, if that is very hard, because it happens.
Yeah.
You don't know who is listening, right? And if for some people that can be strenuous, and that is where I want to take them, being able to do that. But if you cannot do that, then I will keep the 6 points of support.
Okay.
Meaning that if the knees don't hurt, you will choose which surface. Grass will be a great one to start. Right. No sand. Sand is much harder. Yeah. Unless it's hard sand by the ocean. But soft sand, no, not recommended. And you can start crawling in 6 points. Okay. That will be one. Another kind of regression will be when you are in your 4s, instead of keeping the knees close to the ground because you are holding more tension there, I will bring the hips up. I call it the bear. Uh-huh. So now there's less body weight to deal with. Some people will be, oh my God, my hamstrings, right? You are stretching.
No, it's funny you say that, because part of my warm-up is doing some bear walking. So basically, hips as high as they can go, hands as close to my feet as they can go, and then crawling. And it's amazing. The first time I did it, I was really shocked at how much I felt that in my glutes and my hamstrings, because it didn't seem like much. But, I did 20, 30 meters of that, and it's like, wow, that really lit up my posterior.
That starts adding up for sure. And then what you can start doing, then it's just playing. Because, okay, now the bear is fun. Okay, now do the bear forward and then backwards. And it's like, what?
I haven't tried.
Now you are upside down and you're going backwards. Where in life we do that? And then you start like, oh my God, like even people that are very fit and connect, it's like, wait a minute. How do I move now? So it's like playing with that mind and body connection. And, where is your body in a space and how can I start? Because when we don't move in certain ways, the brain loses that ability, right? We don't use it. So then when you put it on the spot, it's like, okay, well, I don't have it. Well, we start practicing and then you start recovering that. So then another progression will be, now we turn around. We are facing up, so more like a supine position, and we'll do the crab walk.
Got it.
So now this one is a hard one too, because the other one, if you do planks, if you do stuff, maybe that we do a lot for the front of the body, right? So most people have the front is stronger than the back. So
Right.
maybe, oh yeah, crawling is fine. Okay, now turn around and let's do some crowd. And it's like, sometimes they're glued to the ground. It's like, okay, how, but of course, it's always with the attitude of opportunity. Because sometimes people will say, oh my God, I cannot believe it. Don't worry, that's great. Now we know. And you can start addressing this. So then when you go and surf, when you go and play soccer, when you go on a spring, when you go the thing, your body is going to be more prepared.
So, and crab walking, so again, you basically start sitting on your butt, feet on the ground, hands behind you, and then lift your butt off the ground and move in different directions. Now, I imagine that, people hearing this might think, well, what does this have to do with either fixing some problem or getting stronger for what I'm doing? I mean, if someone's coming to you, they already have the idea that they're going to get helped in some way, so they're kind of willing to go for the ride. But say more about, what this is doing. Part of what I notice, of course, is that what we've talked about so far, it's all contralateral. It's all working both sides of the body sort of in these diagonals, not just straight lines, not just single joints. And just, it sounds like from what you're describing, that alone is a big part, that integration of both sides of the body and that coordination moving forwards and backwards or sideways as well, I can imagine. So all of this is just about getting things reconnected before you can start to address some specific thing that might show up afterwards.
Yeah, for sure. You say it perfectly. The whole idea is to start connecting the body, waking up those small stabilizers muscles, so then the big muscles can do their job. Because most of the time we're compensating because we don't have that stability, because we don't use it often enough. So start by going to the ground and being the whole body. You start connecting lower body, upper body. You start a lot of improving the communication between shoulders and hips. Those are two big engines of the body.
Right.
And they are meant to work together through the core, the 360, right? Because people think core just a six pack. And it's like, well, that's such a, it's the 360 from back sides working together. And if you see, when we start talking about the crawling, that is the same pattern that you use for your gait, for your run, for everything. So this is regressing, going back to the basics, how we learn how to walk. We learn it by that, by crawling, and then we start standing up, and then we're able to start walking. So going back to that, so we can start recreating that process that we did back then and do it now and start recovering that. So then, yeah, as you say, it's across, contralateral, because right leg, left arm, and opposite, lower body and upper body. So the whole body starts connecting and working together. So that's the goal.
You're reminding me, this whole idea of going back to the basics is so interesting to me, because we don't realize that over time we do come up with these compensating movement patterns. And the only way through that really, or the best way through that, seems to be really going back to the beginning, starting at the beginning. And what I'm reminded of, so I was a gymnast way back when. By the way, we're both part of the long hair pulled back club.
Yeah, I like that. I like your style.
So I was a gymnast way back when, and my coach, when I had already been a very successful gymnast, and he said, this summer we're going back to the basics and just doing round-offs. And I was so upset. I mean, it's like, but I'm doing all these other things, like we're going back to the basics. And he did this later with some Olympic level gymnasts that he'd been working with, where he learned something about which direction you're supposed to turn when you're doing a round-off. And he discovered that half of his gymnasts were turning, quote, the wrong way. So he said to these Olympic level people, we're going back to the basics for the next 3 months. The parents of these people were livid because, they didn't see that as advancing. But for both me and for these other gymnasts, once they went back and cleaned up things that frankly we couldn't have done sooner because we weren't aware enough about what the basics really should have been like. But once we did that after a couple months, everything was better, even though we weren't working on any of those other things.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's what's like, it's a little bit hard to make people understand that. People want the quick fix.
Yeah.
They want a quick fix, but the body doesn't work like that.
How do you get around that with people who are seeing you?
I need to make it really fun. I need to make it, entertaining. And I do a lot of connecting and talking. I start understanding, and people, understand. Some people are like not ready yet, and it's fine, But when they start like, okay, you told me that before, and that makes sense, and you come, and it's like, oh, this feels good. And it's kind of like I'm sure it's for you the same with people using minimal shoes. It's like it takes time. I hear that, but I know I'm so used to mine, and this. It's like, okay, that's fine. let me tell you my part. I'm going to be honest. I don't do this to, because money, or I do it because it's my passion to help people. So I'm going to tell you what I think. And then with that, you do whatever you feel like you need to do. But what I try to do is, let's have fun with this. Let's enjoy it. And when you start reconnecting your body, when your body feels good, then life is much better.
It's true.
Life is much better. And you don't need to stop because you're a certain age. Maybe you modify. And for me, it's when there's a moment that people click. When it takes a while, and I know where they are, and you keep working and you keep talking, and then there's click. And they send me videos. Oh, I'm moving here. And it's like, you're not at the gym. It's not your training hours, but you are moving. I say, okay, I did my job. Because, there's 24 hours in the day. And we need to start adding more movement.
Yeah.
We cannot just think, I'm going to train for 45 minutes, 1 hour, and then I'm not going to do nothing all day. Because it doesn't work like that.
So if you're someone who works at a desk job, I'm guessing that and I'm saying this half joking, that you're recommending that, when they get up from their desk to go to the bathroom or to go to get lunch, walk, crab walk. Yeah. So what are some of the other ways when people come to see you, things you do to make it more fun?
What I say is, start incorporating movement through the day.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. I always say, okay, when you are waiting for your coffee to be done, instead of being on the chair, why don't you do a deep squat and wait there, okay? Or maybe balance on one leg and play with that.
Someone gave me one the other night that I had never thought of, which I love for a lot of reasons. But he says, when you go to the bathroom, before you sit down on the toilet, do 10 squats.
Yes. It's funny and it's kind of a joke, but it's important.
It's real. Yeah.
It's really important. You can start adding so much. Because in order to create this adaptation that we're after, you need to start training your body in that. And it cannot be just 3 times a week for 45 minutes. Then if you're going to sit for 8 hours a day, we're still in the negative.
Yeah.
So work, do your thing. When you finish some task, go up and maybe take for a walk. It doesn't need to be nothing like crawling. If you crawl, amazing, but just go for a walk. Maybe have a kettlebell next to you and you do some deadlift. You lift something heavy, you carry. Go to the bathroom carrying a kettlebell, like a suitcase carry.
You gave me another idea. So the physicist Richard Feynman got a dog and realized that when you're teaching a dog a trick, it doesn't know what you're saying. You can teach it to do anything and you can say whatever you want. So he would do something where he would throw a ball across the room and say, fetch, and the dog would run in the opposite direction, out the house, around the house, and come back. And so I'm thinking, same idea. It's like if you want to do some more moving, when you're in an office, I'm thinking about my office because I actually do this. If I want to go to the bathroom, I can go the short road or I can take the long way around.
Exactly.
And sometimes I take the long way around a couple times.
And when you start playing with that, then you start seeing a lot of opportunities. And it's kind of like, maybe I'm crazy and I'm weird, but it makes your life a little bit better, more interesting.
Well, let's start with a simple thing. Yes, you are crazy and weird, but you've got good company for that.
I feel like we're good.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have a problem with that one. So, how did you come to all of this? What was your evolution to starting to do this?
I was, growing up, we used to play a lot, right? When we were kids, there was not much computer or anything, and I love sports since my first few years. I grew up in Argentina, so we all play soccer all the time. We were playing outside. Then I picked up tennis. Tennis was my sport. And that was, I don't know why, but my goal was to become a professional tennis player. And I said, I'm going to work super hard and I'm going to become, I remember thinking of Boris Becker. Remember Boris Becker?
Sure.
He won Wimbledon at 17. He had the record of the youngest player. I said, I need to beat him. And then I turned 16 and it's like, oh my God, this is like, there's something off. This is not going to happen. So then that's when I stopped playing tennis. I started playing more soccer. And that's the only time in my life that I joined a gym. I didn't know what to do. I was 17 and my friends were going to the gym. And then I did like 1 year or year and a half of just body weight, bodybuilding. Yeah. It was really weird. And, it was a dark cave and lived with other people. It was really weird. And that was the last time. And after that, I became a tennis coach at that age because I was talking with my coach, my last one. I said, man, what you do is so cool. Like, he said, oh, I'm going to go to work. And he was grabbing his racket. He said, I want that. That sounds like something I would like to do. So with his mentoring, I started coaching and I started coaching kids. And I realized that I'm good at this. I enjoy this. At that time, I had much more patience and maybe I was even more fun. So, because with kids, it's a different story too.
Yeah.
So I started teaching, and then I thought of becoming a PE teacher. But then, I don't know, it was weird because then I realized this is so easy to me that maybe I shouldn't do that because, you need to do something harder. So, and I was good with numbers, so I ended up going to college for accounting and economics. Can you believe that? And I did 4 years full on, and I was getting really good grades, and I was moving forward really well. And then I'm 2 years from graduating. I was like 22, 23. And then after that in Argentina, okay, you put your suit and you start doing taxes for companies. And I got really afraid at what's going on. And then I decided to start traveling. I stopped school. I was in the middle of a semester. I said, I'm going. And I took my racket. And then I realized that tennis is the same anywhere in the world. Right. Tennis is tennis. So I said, I can teach tennis anywhere. This is before internet, right? Yeah. There was no internet. And that opened my eyes and opened the world. And that I stay on the road like this, like a nomad, teaching tennis in different places for like 10, 11 years.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And then besides that, I was doing a lot of yoga. I was always, swimming, running, surfing, doing all of those sports. I moved to teach tennis in Cozumel in Mexico. When I got there, I realized I was the scuba diving mecca.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I went there for tennis. And it's like, dude, everybody come here to scuba dive. So then I became a scuba diver instructor. And, I went down and it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And you can teach people and live here in the Caribbean. I'm doing this. So it was always like that. But then in those years, I really messed up my shoulder.
I knew this was good. This is the thing. It's like people, they only seem to discover natural movement, especially discovering things about their feet when something goes significantly wrong. So I knew we were getting there, and here we are.
Oh, yeah. So I was playing, at this time I was living on another Caribbean island, and I was, doing my job, and then I was surfing, I was playing beach volleyball. I was unbreakable in my head.
Yeah.
But I was now, this is 27, 28, and my shoulder's starting to hurt. And whatever. That's not going to stop me, right? So I continue doing everything like nothing.
Right.
Then it was getting worse and worse. There was one massage therapist on the island. So I started going to him, and he was doing whatever he could, but things were not going better. And from there, went downhill and downhill and downhill. And then one day I say, I need to do something. Like the things that I like to do, I cannot play beach volleyball. I can't tennis, forget it. Surfing, it really hurts. Man. This is not even 40. I'm not even 30. And my body was breaking down.
Yeah.
And that was a big awakening. I had to stop traveling. I went back to my hometown because already from being a kid playing tennis, I had tennis elbow, ankles issues, knee issues. So I was seeing a physical therapist over there. And then his son, that was my age, now he was the new physical therapist. So I said, dude, I'm done. And he said, yeah, you're done. So let's, and he was really good. And I stayed there for 6 months just getting treatment on my shoulder. And he was really good. But now I realized he made me believe that we were fragile.
Interesting.
So he said, no, this is not. So I started to feel very different. I wasn't unbreakable anymore. And I started to feel like, okay, now I need to take care of my body because my body is very fragile. So for a long time, I was only maybe swimming, and then I pick up yoga because, okay, that's a good way to take care of my body. There's not much things happening there. Control
yoga, yeah.
So I did that, and I like it. I discovered that it was really good. But then after the year, it's like, this cannot be it. There has to be more than this.
Yeah.
And that is where I encounter natural movement and all these new ways to see fitness, because I was always curious and interested in how the body moves, but the typical gym trainer thing was never appealing to me.
Yeah.
Seeing people, you're going to sit here on this machine and you're going to do this, and then from here, it's like that, that's not me.
Yeah.
But then through natural movement, it's like, okay, this is recovering how the body moves. Doesn't need to be at the gym. You can be at the beach running and lifting rocks and throwing stuff and climbing, oh yeah, that's me. And that's what I say, okay, now this is my thing.
Yeah.
And I went deep, and it is something that I'm going to do forever. This is what I do.
Back to what you said at the very beginning, where most people, they don't even know they have feet, essentially.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember a moment where that sort of woke you up to the importance of natural movement, but especially with the feet?
Yeah, I think it's starting when I realized how little mobility I had in my own feet. Mm-hmm. Because when I started doing more of movement, and there was, if your feet are not strong and they cannot move well, right there, you have limitation, right there, right at the beginning. So I noticed myself, it's like, oh man, like I didn't even know, but my feet are not as functional as they need to be to do all this stuff in a safe way. Right. So yeah, that was a big awakening for me. But the good thing is that the body adapts. Yep. The body is so cool. The body is really cool because really what we do to our body is like too much, Yep. And we don't even, and also it's this stupid body. Now it hurts. Oh, my stupid knee. Oh, my stupid shoulder. And it's like, man, if you will know how much your knee went through before start complaining to you, yeah. So it's like realizing that. And I realized, and I still, but I always say there's always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement. And that's the good thing. It can be a bad thing because it's like, okay, we're not perfect, but still, if you put the time, if you first realize what it is and you start doing things for that, slowly you can start improving. And what I always say is to all my students, what I want is to have everybody at least from 1 to 10 to be a 6 all across the board.
Got it.
Okay, so you have balance, or you're a 6. Strength, you're a 6. Mobility, you're a 6. Flexibility, you're a 6. Body control, coordination, rhythm, you're a 6. That's great. Then if you want to keep going to a 7, 8, 10, yeah, let's go. But at least let's be all a 6 because that's achievable for all of us.
So some of the things that you just mentioned are all related to natural movement. So there's strength, there's balance. There's do you remember what you just laid out and what you want to address for any of those other topics?
I don't know if I say in the order, but I think probably I said strength, strength, flexibility. So stability. I didn't mention stability, but stability. People don't realize how important stability is.
So in the context of natural movement, especially for, let's use strength and then flexibility, talk to me about what you do with people for those, because of course, when most people hear strength, they're immediately thinking lifting weights, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Well, first, when we're talking about strength, it's like how well can you move your own body? Let's forget about any object yet. But show me, okay, like the crawling. If you cannot crawl, well, you are lacking strength in regard to body weight and strength. If you cannot crawl, let's work on that strength. That strength is not. Then other things, I always want everybody to be able to move their own body with ease and control, right? Because you need to be at least strong enough to do things with your body in different positions, different angles.
Right.
Okay. Then it's like, okay, now you're going to lift something. That is next level, right? Because now it just knows your body. Now you're going to be dealing with an object. Okay. First, we need to have kind of like the foundations to be able to do that. Then you need to know how, because people have forgotten how to move.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can lift something and make it very efficient, or I can make it really hard on the body. So start recovering that. So then, okay, now you're moving, you have some control. Okay. Can you do some hinging? People have forgot how to hinge from the hips.
Yeah.
It's a very super important movement. As I say, the hips are one of the main engines. If you cannot hinge, you don't have that engine. So,
I think the thing with hinging, it's funny, I've been doing a lot of things backwards lately. I've been doing a lot of walking and running backwards.
Oh, that's great. That's amazing. Really that's smart. That's smart.
Yeah, it's super fun. And what's interesting, I mentioned to my training partner that what makes it in part difficult is that we don't have eyes behind our head. So same thing with hinging. We don't really know if we're using our hips well or correctly because we don't have eyes to see what we're actually doing or not doing.
Yeah.
So this is where, having someone to
look at. And for that reason, that's exactly what you're saying. And, I see it even more in men because there's also something about moving your hips that is not so manly in a way.
Did you find, is that different in South America versus in North America?
A little bit. A little bit. Here, I think it's even more restrictions with
yeah. Well, that's where I was.
You don't move that way. So when I say, oh, let's hinge, they're doing everything except hinging.
Yeah.
It's like,
no, it's like American men have never done salsa. And so,
yeah. But and that takes time to explain them. It's like, okay, we need the glutes. The glutes is one of the strongest muscles in the body. If you cannot hinge, you don't use them. And if you don't use them, you're going to use your quads for everything, and the hamstrings are going to live left alone and they're going to be freaking out. So it's like understanding, and especially also everything that we do nowadays is right here in front, right here in front. So that, for example, hinging, okay, if you cannot hinge, you're not going to be very efficient at lifting the couch. You're going to be very efficient in lifting anything because you cannot access those.
Well, this is the thing many people don't understand is that a lot of back pain comes from having your glutes not functioning to support your back. And so if you can't hinge, if you can't do a good hip hinge and use your glutes, then you're not supporting your back well either. And I mean, I technically have a broken spine, and I think my doctors are a little stunned that I'm still running or lifting. I stopped doing stupid things when I lift. I'm not deadlifting 400 pounds anymore. That was just dumb. I mean, it was fun, but kind of dumb. But I think what's keeping me going is that my glutes are strong, my hamstrings are strong, and I'm always working to make them better. And if it weren't for that support of using that whole posterior chain, my lower back would be shot.
Yes, and that's another thing. There's a lot of people that I think if they start doing MRIs to all of us, they're going to find so much, especially 40 plus. There's all kind of things that are not how they're supposed to be, right? But that doesn't mean that you can still function well if you start building the support and working around all those. You can still, you have a broken back or issues in your spine, but you're still sprinting and doing everything because that is the thing that the people don't realize about movement. Movement makes your body more resistant too.
Yeah.
And
I think, again, backing up to things we said earlier, when you're looking at your body as just individual parts, that becomes problematic as well. I'm having a weird flashback to a little over 40 years ago, back when I was a gymnast, and there was someone who said to me, well, you have flat feet, so you can't be a gymnast. I said, but I'm one of the best tumblers in the world. So there's something wrong with your theory about feet, because he was equating flat, low arches with lack of strength. And it's, the strength is the important part in that equation, and people don't recognize that typically.
Yeah, it's very easy. And of course, when somebody hears a doctor saying that, most of the time you're going to really follow that.
What I did, I was 15 years old at the time, so this is 43 years ago, and my thought was, wow, you're a doctor and you're clearly a moron.
That's amazing. That means that you had a lot of personality back then.
It means that I was as obnoxious then as I am now. I didn't say it out loud. I was just thinking, clearly these two things don't make sense. You're telling me I can't do the thing that I'm doing. So something is clearly awry. And it's not an uncommon thing. So I want to back up a little. Actually, wait, where do I want to go with this? This is all really fun. I mean, I love this idea of just integrating these more primal movements into as much of your daily life as you can. Sit on the floor when you can. I do that a lot, and I think about it almost every time I do, because I realized that growing up, I never saw people sitting on the ground. I never saw people squatting. I saw my dad sitting on the ground when he was trying to put together, like a television stand, and it would always come out wrong. So he's got all the parts laid out around him, but otherwise I never saw him sitting on the ground.
It's, again, these things that society creates. We were talking before about the feet, you don't show your feet. Well, I walk barefoot most of the time, right?
Me too.
Or I use minimal shoes. That's it. But you know how many times people have stopped me and offered me shoes?
I know. No, so I go barefoot a lot. I was in Costco a little while ago. I tell this story often. I was at Costco, and one of the employees pulls me over and says, "Is everything okay?" I said, "What?" "Well, you're wearing shoes today." He'd never seen shoes. It had been,
But when you look at that, it's all make-believe, right? It's where we decide this is normal and this is not.
Well, maybe
it's the opposite.
Well, here's what's so funny about the barefoot thing. So I live in Colorado. We're walking around barefoot, people look at you weird. And every now and then if someone says something to me, which is very infrequent, people aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are. But if somebody says something to me, I've often said, if we were at the beach right now, would you find this weird? And they say, no. I go, just pretend we're at the beach then.
That's cool. Yeah.
After the big earthquake, Colorado will be beachfront property. So just pretend it's already happened. And
we get so caught up in those things that it's like really like, what's the big deal? And I feel like that's another part of the thing that I like to incorporate besides doing what I do with fitness is just open your mind a little bit.
Yeah.
When we close our minds and when we think that we are right, we are missing out on so much. So just start thinking this is like this, but I think this. And I like to put seeds on people. And then it's like, go ahead with that. And then, because sometimes we just take so many things without really reflecting about them or without thinking. There's a lot put on us and it becomes the norm.
Well, this is a very interesting thing, this idea of going back and doing these primal movement patterns and doing it and finding ways to have fun is interesting because when you are learning these new things, doing these different things with your body, that does have an impact on the way you think about yourself and what you're doing. I was listening to someone talking the other day about doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he says one of the advantages about doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is that you're always put in uncomfortable positions, and you have to learn to be able to relax and think clearly under very uncomfortable circumstances, and then you start noticing in your normal life you're doing the same thing, because you're in uncomfortable circumstances in your life all the time, and you can just feel like, oh, this life situation feels like when someone's about to choke me out and I'm trying to figure out.
That is amazing. That's what it's like. We're missing out when we are only looking at movement just to change the way you look.
Yeah.
There's so much more. For me, also, as a person, I use it always at the entry excuse, okay, we're going to move. But with this movement, you can make so many other changes because my mission is to make people's life a little bit better. But you can movement is a very low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Because as soon as we cannot change everything in one day, right? We are but if you start incorporating movement and you open up, I can move this way and I can do that. And then it's like, whoa, another thing that is very important is to sleep really well. Okay. How do I do that? Okay. Another really important thing is to eat more naturally. So playing and people start shaping their days in a different way. And that is when it's like, okay, now you have a different life.
What strikes me as so important about this idea of playing, I just realized that it was maybe 10 years ago, I can't remember exactly, is when they started doing things like adult kickball and adult, what's the thing where you're throwing a ball and trying to hit somebody? Dodgeball.
Dodgeball, yeah.
They started bringing back these kid games, and that was like a big deal for people. I remember back in my 30s, I was hired to work at a place that was, they tried to call it the Club Med of the Northeast, but it was really just like summer camp for adults. And I was like super excited about this because the idea of going out and playing, doing archery and riflery and target shooting and water skiing and all these things, for me, it was all about play. I was a little surprised when I got there. It was just a giant pickup scene, which I was not. It's like, I want to go do things, whatever. But so, that playing thing is again, so hugely important.
And we need more of those things, like you cannot just live always stressed out and busy.
Yeah.
Your life is more than that. And at least open up a space that you can have fun, express yourself in a different way, play, be silly. Bringing people on the ground is already a game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the beginning, they can be resilient to that. It's like, I don't go to the ground. But as soon as you start getting to the ground, I used to do this when I was a kid. And this remind me of this. And it's like, that is part of the process. It's like, you still are that. It's there in you. You just need to allow yourself to do that. And at the beginning, it's hard. It's like, what is that? What is weird thing that you're doing? Like sometimes people say, I saw you. You do a lot of. People get curious. You're doing weird stuff on the ground. Like I'm crawling. It's like it's not that weird. Maybe because it's me. If you see a kid, that's not weird. But it's me.
You nailed it. I mean, it is interesting that we're not only okay with, but we almost expect kids to behave in a certain way. But at a certain point, we think that we're not supposed to. When I'm teaching people about barefoot running, one of the things that I'll do is, if we're out in a park, I'll say, so if you watch little kids run, they've just learned to walk, they're just learning to run, you see they still got these enormous heads that are bigger than their body proportions. And their head starts to fall and they try to catch up and they usually can't do it. And so I want you to do the same thing. Keep your arms by your sides, let them flop as much as you need to, but I want you to lean your head and then follow your head and then make your head go in weird directions and don't let your feet catch up to your head. And I guarantee after the first 2 minutes, nobody will be paying any attention to you. So just, do it until you can do it for fun. And you see that transition from oh, this is weird, and oh, people are looking at me, to suddenly just complete abandon. And people are just doing it, and they're giggling and having a good time. And there's another movement thing that I like to do with people. I'd say, cross your arms, and they cross their arms, and I go, now do it the other way.
Yeah.
They go, what? I go,
Yes.
now take off your pants when I'm not looking. And then before you go to put them back on, notice which leg you're about to use and then use the other leg. So I like breaking up those patterns too as a form of movement.
The brain is such an efficiency machine. And if you find a way that is easy, it's going to go straight there.
Yeah.
It's funny, the same, when I start people, let's do this. They're going to start in the good side. I say, okay, now let's do the bad side. It's like, okay, as soon as I say something, it's so smart. Our brains, our body are so smart.
Yeah.
So smart. So we need to kind of catch up with that and understand, okay, you're going to do this. Now let's do it this way.
Well, this is a funny thing that I was thinking about recently. I've had a couple of people analyze my running and my movement lately. Some big people who are very well known. And I said to them, and the only way I can do it is by saying this out loud to them. I say, I'm really looking forward to you finding out what I can improve. And I really want you to look at me and think that I'm the best guy you've ever seen. So there's the combination of, I want to look good and I want to get better. And I think if we don't say things like that literally out loud to acknowledge the full reality.
And it's...
I don't want to embarrass myself, and I know I'm going to by having you look at me and seeing things that I didn't see, and I want to get better. It's an interesting combination.
It needs to be a safe environment, especially for men. Again, women normally are more open and they're okay to be maybe don't feel that they're the best in the class. But with men, sometimes, the ego is like they don't want to be doing something. If you're strong, you're going to go and lift because
the thing you're strong at.
If you're unflexible, you're going to avoid flexibility at all costs.
Right.
And it's like, okay, those are the things that you need to do more. The ones that you don't want to do is what we should be doing more.
And we can sort of leave on this thought, if you will, that yes, you want to find those things that you avoid and find a way to do them and do it in a way that's enjoyable, in a way that's fun, in a way that doesn't feel like a chore. I think that's
and it can be done in that way with an open mind. Yeah. And also, again, you don't need to become a yoga instructor. You don't need to have that flexibility, but improving a little bit, it will free up a lot of stuff. Yeah. People sometimes think, oh, I will never be able to do that. You don't need to do it.
Right.
Again, go back to 6. Can we get to 6? 5, 6? Because if you get to that level, and then when you get to a certain level, it's very easy, much easier to maintain than to build, right? So if you can get to 5, 6 all across the board, you're a really functional human. If you keep doing the stuff to maintain that, and that's what I say, age is only a part of the equation. Because if we do what we need to do to get you all across the board at 6, and then we do what we need to do to keep you there, if you, of course, illnesses and accidents, but why you cannot be 80 and still be a 6 all around? Yeah. Why not? If there's,
I can tell you about 12 years ago, my wife and I were in Finland for the World Masters Track and Field Championship. I had a horrible race, but that's not important. And I cracked under the pressure a little bit. It was my first international race.
That's a big event.
I know. And I wasn't used to, now it's not a problem, but then I was new to sprinting. But the more important part was I hung out with a lot of the people who were 85 and older. And there was one guy who was 101. And he came out with his walker. He was having a hard time walking, but he did the field events. He did the shot put, he did the discus, he did the javelin. And he would, come out with his walker. They'd hand him the shot, which I think maybe weighed 5 pounds for that age. And then he throws it. It goes like 10 feet, and the entire audience goes insane.
That's amazing.
Everyone was thinking, I just want to be that guy. I want to be that guy who's 80, 90, 100, who's still moving as much as he possibly, or she, in fact, because it was mostly women who were in the higher 80s competing. I just want to be doing as much as I possibly can then. And what we're seeing is that as the baby boomers are aging, they're doing a little better than,
I think we are. Yeah, for sure.
Awareness of
well, I remember growing up, you said that you're 58.
Yeah.
I remember people at 58, they were much, much older.
Oh my God, yeah.
Right? It's like we are progressing in that way. But it's doable. There's it's not crazy, it's not unnatural to be able to get to those years. It's about what you do starting today.
Yeah, and again, it's not like you're going to be as strong, as fast, as flexible, but that's not the important part. And I love this idea of, if you can just be an all-around 6, that's a great place to start. And, that's a really important thing for people to come to is recognizing that. I mean, it's funny, I had a talk this morning with somebody who was a fitness coach, and he was trying to sell me on his program. And I was just describing, where I was. And I said, I'm trying to lose that last 7 pounds of body fat to get a better strength to weight ratio. And he says, I don't think I can help you, because what I do is I get them to where you are. They'd be thrilled where you are.
Yes.
You're in a different game. And I'm not trying to become the best in the world. I'm not going to be that. I know the guys who are the best in the world. There's no way I'll ever beat them. But if I'm in the top 20, I'm pretty happy. If I'm in the top 15, I'm very happy. If I show up at a track meet, at an international or national meet, and they pull me in for a relay, and I'm the slowest guy in the relay, but we still do well, I'm thrilled. So when I first started sprinting, my goal was, of course, to win everything. And then I saw the lay of the land. And then my goal is just to have people go, what the hell is he doing here? And then I win a race and go, well, how the hell that happen? So, it's just different goals as you start to, I guess, maybe get a little clarity about who you really are as part of it too.
For sure. And your path is your path. And but for me, what it is I help you get to that level that then you can choose. Because it's sad to see people that they cannot do any of those things. They're still very young. There's a lot of life left. And they start really like how I felt when I was in my 20s, that, well, it's downhill from now and there's nothing that you can do.
Yeah.
So that is what I want to change. That's like, no.
So if people want to find out how they can get your help to make these kinds of changes and have this kind of fun, how would they find you and get in touch with you?
Yeah, the easiest way will be to find me on Instagram. I'm at Barefoot Movers.
Barefoot Movers, plural? Movers,
Movers. Yeah, because there's also, it's community, Barefoot Movers. And also, if they want to check my website, it's barefootmovers.com.
Perfect.
But Instagram is a great way because I'm trying to be active there, and it's a good way to start, conversation. People have questions, I can answer right away. It's a good place for that. Yeah. So,
as a friend of mine once said, when they asked him how to become a millionaire, he said, find a way to help people improve their life just a little bit, and then ask them for a little bit of money for that. So I don't know what you're doing financially, nor do I care, but you're helping people move and enjoy their life a little bit more, and that's the important part. And I just want to thank you, and I just want to appreciate, there aren't a lot of people who really, really understand the value of natural movement and ways of integrating that and ways of playing with that. And so it's always a pleasure to meet someone new who does. I really look forward to what I can do to be helpful, and so we'll have that conversation offline.
Yeah, so thank you very much. It was a pleasure to meet you. It was a pleasure. Another thing that I want to say that is also, I really appreciate people that do what you do.
Oh, thanks.
Because we need more people of doing things to help people.
Yeah.
I think if we change that mindset of, I need to do whatever I need to do to make money.
Right.
It's like, that's not a good direction to go. And when I see people that they work really hard and they put a product out there because they want to help people, that is amazing. And that's what we need more of. So I want to recognize that on you.
Well, thanks. I mean, I say I'm never going to slight someone for deciding what they need to do to make a living and support their family. But I can say that, we hear from people every day who say things like, you changed my life. And that's what gets us out of bed in the morning. Running a business is a very difficult thing, especially a shoe company.
I imagine,
early on. But the number of people that we've heard from whom we've been able to help, and starting with ourselves, we feel it every day, that's what gets us going, and that's what makes it really exciting. And then again, finding more and more people like you who understand this, the more we can spread the word. Like I said, it's a movement movement.
Yeah, very cool.
And so getting more people involved in the movement part of moving, that's what's going to make it work. At a certain point, we'll hit a critical mass, and a lot of this will just become more obvious to people.
Yeah, and sometimes it's easy to just give up because it takes time. I will say earlier, trying to educate people and tell them this is so much easier to just go with the main thing. This is easy. You want this, I give you this. In fitness, it's a lot. Oh, give them what they want. So you're going to have and it's like, no.
Well, I asked a friend of mine, the psychologist who said, my friend who said, find a way to improve people's lives a little and ask for a little money in exchange. I asked him once, do you want to give people what they want or what they need? Because you tell them what they want to hear, and then when they get in, you show them what they need to hear.
Yeah.
And now, it's not about being a bait and switch, but people are, like with footwear, people say they want comfort. Great. Well, the way you thought you get comfort is not the way you get real comfort. Yeah. You don't get it from a bunch of cushioning and padding and elevated heels and pointy toes and stiff shoes. You get it from your body naturally. And once people discover that, it's like a giant wake-up call. And so this is the thing across the board, is the more that people can discover this new way of doing things that actually works, again, we'll hit a critical mass, and it will become obvious again, as it was before people started selling solutions to non-existent problems.
Exactly. Yeah. That's amazing. Right. All right.
Well, dude, it's a total pleasure. Don't go while I sign off. And as I'm signing off, for everyone who's been on this, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed this.
I love it.
If you want to find out more about what we're doing at the Movement, go to www.jointhemovementmovement.com. You can opt in to hear about upcoming episodes. You can find the previous episodes. You can find out all the places where we share our content on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, et cetera, et cetera. If you have any questions, drop me an email, move@jointhemovementmovement.com. You can use that for any recommendations you have for other people who you think should be on the podcast, including people who think I'm a complete idiot. If you know someone who thinks I'm totally wrong, I want to talk to them. Let's have some fun with that too. And most importantly, though, whatever you do, please go out, have fun, and live life feet first.